It is Monday, October 8th, 2018, and I will call the Charles City Community School Board District Board of Education regular meeting to order with roll call vote, please.
Maycumber,
Here?
Walker,
Here.
Dyke,
Here.
Freund,
Here.
Mack absent, Tilton.
Here.
Reading of the edition of the district mission statement and core values. Our mission is to engage, inspire, and empower students and staff in order to maximize learning. Our district core values are best for all kids, family, committed leaders, passionate, and innovational. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Is there any original changes, additions or changes?
There's not.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. I'd like to welcome public visitors. And,
Ask for vote.
oh, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Approval of the agenda passes 5-0.
4.
4, thank you. Welcome visitors. Public comment? We have none tonight. Comment by board members and superintendent.
So had a lot of excellent things happen in the past couple weeks. First of all, board superintendent goal 1, professional learning. Appreciated the board members, Mack, Dyke, and Freund that attended the Iowa Association of School Board workshop in Mason City last week. We'll have a share out about some of the learning that we had from that as well. We have professional learning happening across the district today and also tomorrow. Love that a lot of voice from the teachers was included in that, so there's a lot of collaboration time around our buildings. Really happy that we are doing red carpet customer service training with all of our front of house. All of our secretaries spent nearly 4 hours collaborating on what that'll look like. You'll see some nice changes, I think, in our front offices and how we're going to go above and beyond and have really over-the-top animated invitational work with dealing with our guests and different people. Going on to board and superintendent goal 2 of culture and climate. As I put the board update this week, we had a group of student leaders go down to University of Northern Iowa and also to Hoover Middle School and learn the art of giving tours. And so they are now equipped to give tours. We've talked to our business partners, so if they have people that are interviewing, that they want to tour our buildings, we can at pretty quick notice get that set up. If we have guests or prospective students coming through, we'd love to do that. I would highly invite everybody at the board table. If you want to contact us, we would love to give tours to board members. And I've also reached out to city council, the mayor. I'm going to get a tour. A couple of reasons. One, we would love to just show off the schools to our board of directors. But second of all, it'd be great for them to practice. So they would love some practice, a lot of feedback on how they can make that even better, as we have some pretty high-stake tours coming up pretty soon. And I'd also invite anybody in the community that's interested in taking a tour. If they want to contact us at Central Services through our email or superintendent@charlescityschools.org. We would love to give anybody that's interested a tour of our buildings. Our final signage is going up. We're just finalizing the last signage pieces at the middle school and a little bit at Washington, so excited about that. And again, some front of house changes you'll notice. So there are no more automated greetings at any of our buildings. When you call our building, you will be greeted by a human being. We'll only use the automated greeting at night after hours. And we are also happy to announce, based on parent feedback and feedback even from other community members, we made some busing changes. As you guys are all aware in the community, some of our buses were very crowded because our rural routes were also taking out the town kids as well. We had some kids sitting 3 wide as they got through town. We've now instituted some in-town routes. So 3 bus routes are just for in-town kids. We've also separated them by grade levels. So now the high school, middle school ride a route, and the elementary kids ride different routes. We just thought that was more developmentally appropriate. Had to get through a few kinks. We had a bus late one night, and we had to deal with that. We were really sorry that happened, but we were able to get that fixed. All of our buses now are getting in back from routes by 4:30. So the rural route kids are getting home a lot sooner as well. So that's been a big plus for us as well. So thank Jerry and his team and all the administration that made that happen. And we also started something new now. If we have a bus that's more than 15 minutes late, we will send a text message to all of the parents that are on that bus. So thank Communications Office and Justin DeVore for making that happen. And we put a radio in Central Services so they can just notify us, and we fixed that protocol. So we sent notification to all the bus riding parents about this new service on last week as well on Friday. And then board superintendent goal of number 3, infrastructure facilities. Thank you to Jason Walker and all the awesome people that helped get new trees. Like 40-some trees were planted around campuses, so through a federal and state grant. So thank you for your work on that. Some of our paving with the new basketball courts out by the middle school is a little delayed. For obvious reasons, it's been a tough fall, so we're still trying to get some of that summer projects finished up. We're not sure we'll get the new garage at the football field done this year just because of the rain. If the rain subsides, we'll get that done. Otherwise, it'll be first on our list as soon as the weather breaks. So other than that, kind of an update of where we are in the district.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry, that was a lot. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
Very good, very good. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say I was really pleased with the Drive for Your School event this last Saturday. It's the first time that I've ever been out there, and it was good to see so many people come out, and I think the food truck helps. I don't know if that's the first year that they've done that, but
That's the first year I've seen the food truck.
I heard a lot of people
Yes.
commenting on the fact that that was there, so I think that, people always come for food, so.
We sent a thank you to Mike Molstead. Really appreciate
Yeah.
him for doing that. We made our goal. I think it was
We
like,
did.
yep, like 306 or something like that. So,
Awesome.
And all of our administrative team showed up, so we were really, really proud of that. I unfortunately wasn't there. I had my doctoral courses I'm working on. I was really bummed that I couldn't be there, but I was happy to hear all our principals were there.
I had been in contact with Mr. Jones, Mr. Fisher recently about going to the elementary schools and sitting down with kids during lunch to hear their opinions and thoughts on what the school lunch needs, what can be improved, or what's already good as it is. Hopefully trying to get there during my smart lunch times because that's the only time I can get there. That's why I like smart lunch. Hopefully I can start getting there, visiting every few days or so. Hopefully by the end of this week I can get at least one in.
Very nice.
Awesome.
That is very good. Thank you for doing that. 2 minutes?
Been a really wet fall, as everyone knows, and cross-country is struggling to have meets. Was able to go last Tuesday. The meet was scheduled for south of here, and we ended up driving an hour and 45 minutes to Eagle Grove instead. And both boys and girls did an excellent job down there. Supposed to be conference cross-country tomorrow night, but if we get 5 or 6 inches of rain in the next 24 hours, there won't be any place in northeast Iowa to have a cross-country meet. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. We'll move along to agenda item number 6, committee reports. Looks like we have SIAC.
School Improvement Advisory Committee met, and I invite Director Freund and Director Dyke to share out as well. We had standing room only, which was great. Everybody, we were missing one student member, but otherwise everybody was there. We had Taher give a report, which is mandated by code that does a share out about nutrition, and so it was great. That's also where Isaiah and I talked about creating some systems for him, doing some feedback loops. Got some great feedback. They answered some questions about school lunches. They had a lot of great feedback to Taher and to Jenna Goodale about what was going on. Especially one of the highlights is people really appreciate the unlimited fruit and veggies bar. Also, we're putting on that not every student's taking advantage of that, so it was great to share that piece out as well. I did a presentation around the core values, what we believe in, our mission and vision. And then what I will say is we had a lot of positive feedback that night, and some themes we heard in the minutes that we took was best start of the school year in recent memory, really appreciated the positive direction that we're going, positivity coming from the school district. There was a teacher who said really appreciated her voice was really feeling heard, and the administration is taking feedback on making changes. So we did a share out where everybody shared out, comments, and so there was I felt like a lot of positivity coming, which was great because we always want that feedback. So invite the directors to share out anything else about SIAC.
Well, I think you covered a lot of it.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
being my very first meeting, it was fun to hear comments from so many different, people, community members, teachers, parents, students especially too. So it was just good to be a part of it and to hear, what everybody had to say. And it was a lot of positive comments, and good to hear the positive comments, not just from one group of people, but, the teachers are excited about the school year, and like you said, they feel like they're being heard, and parents are saying their kids are excited to go to school. You heard the words like positive vibe. It's just a lot of good things that were shared. So
One thing, Taher gave everyone that was at the SIAC meeting a free meal ticket and encouraged us all to go have lunch someday in a building of our choice, just to experience what the kids are experiencing, have lunch with the kids somewhere, and then people are expected to report back to Jenna or potentially at a future SiAC meeting briefly to see what the members of SiAC, which again is made up of community, faculty, staff, and students, what is their opinion of our lunch? So,
I thought it was good as a follow-up to that meeting. I noticed that the Charles City Food Service Facebook page posted a picture of 2 meals on the same day. One where the plate was overflowing with food, and the other one where they had just taken basically the bare minimum of what they had to take, just so they could show that, you know, there is unlimited fruits and vegetables available to your students if they choose to take them, which I thought was good to show that to parents who might not know.
It was a good visual, I saw that too. That was a
Yeah.
good reference to see the night and day difference between what a overflowing plate, same price for each plate.
Right.
Excellent. The attendance there sounds excellent.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I don't think we've ever had over about 50% attendance.
No.
Anytime I've been there.
We were excited about that. We also had a lot of feedback about the signage, so people really appreciate that piece. So that was a nice thing to hear as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Number 7, job shadowing reports.
I'll start. I had Julie Parker, and we had scheduled it for today, and then Friday, we both kind of light bulb went on, there's no school today. So we have rescheduled that for later this week, so.
I did not get to mine, so I will be doing 2 this next month.
I think you
So-
will be, and I did not get to mine, so you're in the majority here.
and I didn't get to mine.
I had the same problem.
I was,
So I think we should recognize Jason as being able to at least try to get his completed.
We both hit, and she hit the panic button and like called me like 6 times, like, don't show up, because I'm like, oh, that's right, so.
So Madam President, would it be advisable maybe we just delay on drawing new names?
well, I was talking with Jason a little bit before about that, and last year I had gotten behind too because of my commitments with jobs and that thing. And I actually took advantage of it and spent an entire day in the school and visited with 3 different individuals. And it was a very enjoyable day. So I would put it to the rest of the board members to let me know what they think. Do you want to wait, or do you just want to draw again and have 2? And spend a little more time on maybe the day you visit, or I'll look to you for a recommendation.
Are we looking to complete these by the first meeting in November?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, we're only going to have potentially 1 meeting in November, depending on what we decide.
Right. And with the convention in November taking 2 days away from
Yeah.
Shall we wait
work,
then?
I think maybe we should this
Let's
one
do that.
time wait,
Okay.
just.
Okay.
Sorry,
See-
Isaiah, you'll have to wait till next time.
Darn.
I'll put that in here.
Moving on to agenda item number 8, National Principals Month. National Principals Month is an opportunity to hashtag thank a principal for great things they do. The board would like to recognize Kara at Washington, Marcia at Lincoln, Rick at the middle school, Tom at the middle school, Brian at the high school, and Larry at the high school. This is an action item. Do we have any discussion other than a huge thankful to these individuals? They are the pivot for these buildings. They are, the responsibility is put on their shoulders for the success of each one of these buildings. And if we're looking at SiAC, that's such a great measure of what's going on. These people have to have been a good part of some of the comments that you would have received during that meeting.
And I want to share out as well, one of my platforms when I was hired was culture and climate and principal coaching. And so I've put a lot on their plates this year to expand their thinking, expand their horizons. And so that's not always easy. And they have taken that with a smile on their face and have really dug in and really changed how they do things and change their thinking. So I've had a couple say I've been pushed more professionally this year than I have in a long time. And so that's not easy as well. So I want to honor them that they are doing tremendous work and thinking in new ways to better serve all kids.
I move that the board recognize and thank the aforementioned 6 principals and assistant principals for their contributions to the Charles City Community School District.
Second.
I have a motion as a second. Is there any other discussion? We have a motion to recognize and thank Harris Shannon of Washington, Marcia DeVore of Lincoln, Rick Gable of the middle school, Tom Harskamp of the middle school, Brian Mearns of the high school, Larry Wolf of the high school, for their contribution to the Charles City Community School District. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 9, certified enrollment.
So this has been one of my passions the last couple of months, because I'm just convinced that we can stabilize our enrollment, even though we've had some data that might indicate otherwise. But there are kids out there, and we have some amazing programming that's out here that we want to show off and make sure our community is aware of. I have pushed very hard with our principals and with our secretary staff to monitor enrollment and do what we can. And we have made a tremendous amount of home visits. An extra shout out to Kara Shannon and Larry Wolf. They made a lot of home visits. Our homeschool assistance people made a lot of home visits, getting people engaged and asking why. I can tell you there's been several that thought about open enrollment. We talked about it. They decided to stay. It was very busy the week before school. And we did counts literally, Terry can tell you, probably the last 2 weeks every day. Literally every day I went to see where we're at, and we were monitoring kids and know where they were. We also offered a new pilot program, virtual online learning, which is something we've had in the district, but now we're having the option of being able to do that at home and with support from teachers going to the houses and doing things. I can tell that pilot program, which we will expand as we get solidified into signature programming, those students count as one certified, which is great. And again, this is something we've checked, and it's not unprecedented. Several districts that do this as well. But this is also for students that sometimes we're doing homeschooling, but they want the homebound experience, but still want the curriculum. We have 7 kids that are enrolled in that normally would have been not on our counts. So with that, I'm proud to announce that right now, tentatively, that we'll certify 1504, which last year we were 15. So that means we're up 4 kids, which for us, it doesn't seem like a lot. There's some districts that might be up 50, but for us, with declining enrollment the last 4 years, that's huge. And that means Terry and I are facing a positive budget outlook, which is huge. I am also going to tell you, if not for the work of our principals and the work of our secretaries, that number likely would have been 1485. So while it seems like we're only up 4, there's actually 15 people that we impacted that have them stay in the district. So I just want to give a little shout out to our teams. They did a lot of work to make this happen.
Any discussion?
That's something I, agree that you mentioned only 4 up. I hadn't had an opportunity to do it, but we'll go back and look at the enrollment projections that was redone by ISPIS a year, 2 years ago. And in those, at that time, it projected some pretty dire straits with decline. So, a +4 in reality is probably a plus, 10 times that compared to where that enrollment projection was. I am anxious to go back and take a look at that, see where we stand compared to that, and bucking the trend in a positive manner. So thank you guys for your hard work. And the big thing there, I think that so many people struggle to put together the correlation between enrollment, kids in seats, and the equation to how it equates to dollars at the end of the year, budget cuts or no budget cuts. So it's a big deal.
Thank you.
I don't know which page it's on, but in the annual report, there's a summary of history of what the enrollment has been, and if memory serves, it says something about an average of 10 plus down in the history that was in the annual report.
Page 28.
Page 28. So to go up 4 is excellent.
And we'll continue this work. We're doing a lot of demography work. We're looking at how many live births are happening and correspond that to our kindergarten enrollment. And you've heard me say this, and they've heard this in the community quite a bit, signature programming. We have signature programming. The communications office and I will continue to make sure people are aware of that, whether it's transitional kindergarten, whether it's our Project 18, Project 19. There's a lot of things, orchestra, those are things that are unique to our district that are not offered in comparable districts or in the area, our FFA programs. We could go on. And we're going to look at bringing in other signature programming that highlight in the area of why you should choose Charles City Community Schools as a destination district. So what I'm proud of, we really didn't make a huge change in our programming, and we're still, just with relationships and conversations, talked to a lot of people, basically a plus 20 range of people staying. let's arm ourselves with even more tools to really give people a reason to want to choose us. And again, will we jump like 1,700 kids? Well, maybe. That's a little bit more of a stretch, though. But can we stabilize between 15 and 1525, 1550? I think that's very doable. Our demography will tell you there's enough kids to stabilize that, and then we can right-size our district around our staffing for what we need for 1,500 kids, and that just makes everybody's lives a lot easier in terms of stability, in terms of budget, especially Terry.
Yeah, it helps.
Good information, thank you. Agenda item number 10, sale of the North Graham Building. Superintendent Fisher, can I first this over to you again?
Absolutely. As we have discussed, there have been numerous, and it's been in the paper and through the community, and we've had some discussions at Rotary and the Senior Center. I made a priority in my new administration the sale and repurpose of the North Graham building. And we know that's a big topic in our community and a big desire. As I go out and do I think we're up to like 90-some community meetings and meeting with staff members, that has come up consistently as a theme. So we became very aggressive as of July 2nd. I want to credit Terry and also Justin DeVore helping us with this, and we were really talking to a lot of people that might be interested. Up until now, it's been all informal conversations, informal tours. And at this point, we have identified a few different development groups that are very interested in moving to the next phase. So because we're ready to move to the next phase, we have contacted our attorneys on what the steps are for the school board to initiate this next step. And so that's why you're looking at this administration recommendation, superintendent's recommendation to direct me to go ahead and proceed with the sale and disposition of the building, which would start the next steps, which could include things such as rezoning, also title work, and also consultation with our attorneys for next steps, and different things that will happen for us to proceed to that. So this is the first formal step in this really exciting journey of us getting the building repurposed in a way that honored its glory that it was.
Superintendent Fisher, quick question for you. Back a while ago, we had an offer on the building with a time on it, and that time expired, and that individual chose not to pursue any additional. At that time, we had retained legal counsel to review the property at commonly referred to as 500 North Grand and go through and clean it up. And where are we in that process? Is that completed, or is this additional work that needs to be done?
In terms of the title, that's what
Yeah,
you're,
yeah.
So we are working with a local attorney to work through that work, and I'm happy to report that it has moved along quite a while, quite quickly. Some of that had stalled after the previous developer walked away. We contacted the attorney back in July, says we have to get on this. It's right now it's a process called a quiet deed that has to, and I don't understand all the intricacies of this. This is where maybe Terry can chime in, but sorry, I threw you under the bus there. But we have our attorney, Daniel DeBauer, working on this. Right now, they're at the point, there's some people that have to be given public notice from the 1930s of when there was a public road that was moved. And so there's some newspaper advertisements and things going out to have that cleared. And once that clears, we can go to the next step. But we easily anticipate that can be resolved before we move to the next phase of actually getting to a purchase agreement. So everything's on time and on track with that work as well.
Outstanding, thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion?
Motion to direct administration to negotiate possible terms for the sale of the North Grand Building property with interested parties conditional upon final board approval following a public hearing held in accordance with the Iowa Code.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to direct administration to negotiate possible terms for the sale of North Grand Building with interested parties, conditional upon final board approval following a public hearing held in accordance with the Iowa Code. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to agenda item 11, an IASB workshop discussion. Superintendent Fisher.
Sorry you have to listen to me so much tonight, so I'll have to re-sign that, but I appreciate you being a good sports. Really happy that, and I want to really credit Director Dye of giving the idea of going up, and so I learned a lot. I think everybody else learned a lot. I'm going to quit talking. I'll let Misty and Scott do more talking. So talk about what we learned about.
I'll finish up and let the other two start.
Well, this was really my first experience being able to sit down in like small group discussions with board members from other communities, which I found extremely helpful, but just nice to be able to hear from other people who are dealing with some of the same issues, or maybe somewhat similar, but other, things added in that maybe we don't deal with or wouldn't think of. So I thought that the discussions are really good. I was excited to be able to share what we're doing here and talking about our mission and vision and core values. And I have that, what we have on the posters, I have that saved on my phone, so I actually pulled that out and showed that to the people at my table, and they thought that that was really cool. And then one of the ladies who was leading the discussion actually called out Mike and said, hold up your binder and show us what it says on there.
Well, they
But
were making fun of my binder, but then
I think Josh made fun of the binder more, but I thought it was really, really good discussion. And to be honest, the thought of being away from my kids for 3 hours, at night, at first didn't sound like something fun, but it was a really good session to be a part of, so, yeah.
Do you remember some of the school districts that you were at your table then too?
So I had 2 people from Central Springs. They had their entire board there and their student board member. I don't know if their superintendent was
I'm
there.
sorry, Isaiah.
But
It's like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, we should have invited you.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw the student, I'm like,
And then I think I had the superintendent from, is it Clemmy?
Belmont Clemmy.
Belmont Clemmy, thank you. And I can't remember where the other
that's
gentleman was
excellent.
from, but.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
I think I just learned quite a bit. We talked about communication structures, which we're going to do an activity about that. That was great, and knowing the role of the board. They talked about coherence, how to keep it, and that's a fancy word, of really staying aligned to the high leverage work of the mission and the vision, the core values, and then your board superintendent goals. So they really went through some research, but made the research, digestible for lay people that don't do educational research all day. So that was great. I sat with some people from Algona and Mason City, and so that was great. We had some great conversation around that. So it was a nice supper too, so we appreciate that.
My main person that I remember at my table was Algona, and I don't remember where the other 2 were from. Did bump into or had a chance to have a conversation with former superintendent Dr. Tom Williams, who was here from 91 to 94. He is now filling in and is an interim in Algona, so he came over and chatted with me, so good to catch up with him. The regional workshops, we didn't go to any last year. We didn't go to the fall one, and we didn't go to the spring one, partly because when we looked at their agendas or what they were going to talk about, we'd already participated in all of those, but or the majority of us had. This one was a really good one. The one thing that they talked about was towards the last half of the conversation was a new book called Coherence: The Right Drivers in Action for Schools, Districts, and Systems, originally published in July of 2015. It made for a good discussion and something that maybe we should consider looking at purchasing that book and could do a book study on as a group. Would be a suggestion that I would have, and we wouldn't have to, I haven't looked at it, I don't know how many pages it is, but it could last several months for a conversation. We wouldn't have to do the whole book at once. There's 6 chapters in it, so it was just a good way, again, to go to a group setting, like Missy said, talk to people from other districts, and then have compare notes upon how do we do things, how do other districts do things. The one thing that I took away more than anything, I felt like we as a district and a board seem to be on top of things and even ahead of the curve compared to some other districts. So I felt good about that.
It's interesting you chose the book for a study. He actually was the keynote speaker at last year's IASB, if you remember.
I wasn't there, so
Oh,
no.
yeah, so you wouldn't remember. It was very interesting to hear him talk, and then most of us were researchers from Canada, but I think it's still applicable to the States, so. It was really interesting to meet a lot of different people from different boards, specifically the Springs, not Cedar Springs. Central Springs. They were a really unique group. They seemed to be very much on the same page, even though a lot of their district is very diverse because it has basically one school in 5 or 6 different towns, and there's one board member from basically every city, but they all are very similar in their thought process, how they communicate in the direction they want to go, which was really, really exciting to see. We got a really positive comment on Mike's binder, and something that was very concerning. We had several board members that came up to Missy and I and said, we're going to try to steal Mike. So we have removed his information from the website and hidden him from all public. But that was a very positive thing that we were excited to hear. I thought they had a lot of really good ideas that helped to challenge us. One that I thought was very interesting is how to handle interaction with the public. When someone from the public has a specific topic that they would like to bring to your attention, how to help them understand how to work within the chain of command and how to work within the administration and the process at the school and the board has set forth to resolve those issues. So it was really great. Really enjoyed it, and I think we should work to try to host one here at some point.
And we were going to reach out to ISB to see if we could get them here, especially in our beautiful
Yeah.
middle school facility.
Yeah, that had been a discussion
In the past,
in the
yeah.
past too, seeing if we could post one. All right, moving on to agenda item 12, at the board table.
Well, I've been working with Harry with the ISB, and we have done all of the at the board tables. Also, in talking with some of you, there could be a value, especially with me being new and some people maybe haven't gone through it, to go through some of the at the board tables again and reviewing those. Also had a good conversation with Harry tonight. We don't necessarily have to go through the entire at the board table in one setting. We could take an at the board table, we take about 30 minutes each and do a chunk for 10 minutes at a time. But I think there's some things that are just really good reminders for us on what our roles are and doing different things. Did talk to Harry though. I said, yeah, I need something, around board communication, because I think that's something that'd be just good for us with a new superintendent to discuss. He gave me what's in the exhibits tonight. Scott, I'm really sorry. I don't think there's any better boardsmanship points with this. I tried to talk Harry into that, but he wouldn't do it for me.
Excuse me?
You were just sitting to my left, so I just was looking at you. So.
We'll
But-
be contacting Harry individually.
I did tell Harry though, we wanted some we want to write some new ones. I did tell Harry that. He's very excited about that. So Harry and I are going to contact in probably November. He's doing a lot of board workshops right now, but we're going to try to write some new ones because they said we really need some around HR, HR scenarios, because I know that comes up a lot, especially as you receive maybe concerns or different things or things that are confidential and what the rules are. So we'll just go through these list of questions. It's good just to make sure we're all on the same page about communication principles, knowing about what the role of the board is, that 30,000-foot view, and knowing that the leadership is tasked with operating and leading the district. But going through this, how do we communicate board to board, superintendent to board, and board to superintendent? What will be some of the communication tools that we'll use?
What I found to be most beneficial that Dr. Cox instituted previously and you've carried forward are the weekly memo updates, whether that's I always called it the Finally Friday before it's FF, but.
And I'm trying.
The Friday.
Sunday this week.
It was actually months and months and months before I realized it was the Friday focus and it wasn't the Finally Friday, but, those things had so much information in it, in 1 week snapshot of this is what happened in the district during the week. That prepared you for just simply knowing those things if you were contacted by members of the public, if you were out and about on the weekend, you go out to eat with your family somewhere on a Saturday night and there's something that came up on a Friday, Thursday, Wednesday at school. You weren't blindsided by those things. So that kind of communication has been really, really effective for me and appreciated. So.
And even the email last week when the school bus in town ran late, giving us the heads up, anything like that, where the public would have a reason to call, text, Facebook, whatever, and complain about something. It's nice to know about it before we get those messages or run into people?
I really believe in the concept of no surprises. And we do the best we can with that we'll never, sometimes we'll slip up on that. But one of my mentors, DeWitt Jones, who's a longtime Waterloo superintendent, he always says, I'd rather be standing where the missile's launched, not where it lands. And so sometimes when we have missiles in the air, it's just part of the nature of our business, but keeping you up to speed on that has been something I really want to prioritize. What else?
General communication between amongst, though, I mean, I always encourage the rest of you to contact me no matter, how it's convenient for you, whether it's text message, phone call, email, any of that. I know we're all busy. It's not always easy to get phone calls right back or text message right back, whatever, but, just if there are things, thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, things like that, that is a key part of, moving through this in a fluid manner and an efficient manner, so that we are all, again, no surprises, no whatever, and that we're all on the same page and try to have good communication with each other, so.
Okay. What communication method works best for each members of the group? Phone, email, etc. I try to differentiate my style, but then you might want to talk about style amongst each other. Typically, I'll text you, but usually if I text you, it's just to say, check your email. I think it's really important, especially on open records requests, because, open records request could be filed on a text message for us. This is a lot more difficult, a lot more sticky. So I always find that, hey, just check your emails is a good, nice, clean way. So that if there's differences on that, and I know I'm trying to have meals with you, once a month. I think that's a powerful piece. But then also, after we have meals, making sure that I give you a review in the board update what we talked about, so if one knows, all knows. But give me feedback on things that might be better for the group or what you might want to see.
I like the email too. It gives us a good record point, I think. It's easier to spell things out and keep for reference for later on. Appreciate that. But I also like a little text check for you.
Well, you'll notice too, as long as you're okay, sometimes I may have another senior leader email you just because, like one day I was doing a busing thing and I wasn't, it was easier just to call Justin and say, hey, get this out to the school board right away. And so just so you know, that may just sometimes be a convenience piece.
The one thing with email, though, when you do a group email, on my phone with an Android, I don't get the notification.
Okay.
So like when you do the weekly update, whichever day of the weekend that may happen to be on.
I'm getting there, Scott, I'm getting there.
That's
Right?
fine.
No, I don't. I have to check my phone several times a day. So I'm just saying, if you send out a group email,
Yeah, text message.
especially if it's something, an emergency or something that happened that we need to be aware of so that we aren't surprised. Yeah, I need a text message as well.
I was so proud of myself. I got the Friday Focus, the weekly update I renamed, but it was at the homecoming dance, about 11:30, so I just barely made it.
I did.
Out, so.
I was wondering why you were still up so late.
Oh, homecoming dance supervision.
There you go.
And since we're talking, and you mentioned a little bit about emails and keeping everything legal on that, can you at least speak to what happens when we send out a group email and how we should or shouldn't respond to a group email so that we don't form that form
Chain form.
on an email? Because that is something that we haven't had that's something we probably should have an ISAB training on too, because that is an area that.
So one of the best practice things from ISB, and you'll notice that I do, although I slipped up one night because I sent out just a celebration email about some pictures that we've had, and I realized I didn't do it that night. But otherwise, I always email myself and I BCC you guys. And the idea of that is you're not able to hit reply all because that's an accidental thing. Usually people don't mean to break the law, but you could hit reply all and then hit reply all, and you do that twice, 3 times, you just create an electronic ruling meeting. And so that's why you'll notice if I get a comment back on the Friday Focus, the weekly update, I'll answer, but I'll also reply all. I'll do a BCC, just be aware of this piece, so that way we can limit that piece from happening. So I think that's really important. So I would highly encourage, if you ever email the board, I would BCC it and just email yourself. And I've seen many of you do that with me, so I appreciate it. I also will tell you this, anytime I were to get a request from a board member about some information, which is totally your right and responsibility, I will always send it to all board members. So if Missy asked for a financial document on some policy thing she's working on, I would make sure you all get that. If one knows, all should know.
Well, and usually if one is asking the question, we all have the question.
Absolutely.
We've learned that over the last
Yes.
years, for sure. And even if it is just a question you think that experienced board members, not always.
What frequency of communication is needed, realistic, and expected?
Just in time.
Just in time.
Yeah, I know it is difficult to do, with everything going on, it is difficult to get that weekly communication out, and I don't care what day it comes on, if it's a day later, a day early, whatever, just the fact of having it is greatly appreciated, so.
I think my
I
commitment has
agree.
been to definitely get it out between Friday and Sunday.
Yeah,
And I will
that's-
always have it before Monday.
That's just fine.
I found sometimes like Saturday, we're still doing things.
Yeah.
There were some updates around some facilities meetings we wanted to get
Yeah.
out there as well.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Missy, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, I was just saying that I agree. I really like having a weekly update and, yeah, especially the pictures too. I like seeing pictures and seeing things that are going on, so I really appreciate that
What
piece
I,
as well.
too, with the weekly update is if I have a question about something that's going on, I kind of wait for that to come. And a lot of times, there it is right there, the answer to what.
Mhm.
And then that saves us having to research contacts. I appreciate that.
And I try to not, because I also realize you guys are volunteers, you have lives, I try not to inundate with things, unless it's a crisis thing. So that's why sometimes I drag my feet, because I realize if I send it to you, then Saturday we have this meeting, I'm going to send you another email. So I try to be concise and have it all one nice, tidy location for you. For important items, what type of information needs to be communicated? So for significant but not urgent items, and then also for emergency situations. So maybe we start with emergency situations. Maybe we can kind of clarify what that is, because I know there's been confusion or questions about that in the past.
Basically, anything that's going to hit Facebook, social
Okay.
media.
Okay.
Because those are obviously then the ones that we get hit on as board members in the community.
I think your handling of the busing situation where we had one that was really slow was really well done. It was the right communication, it was the right time, and then we had some other staff members get on social media and help people understand what the current situation was, what we're doing to remedy it, and then if there were any issues in the future, how to contact somebody. So it was kind of multifaceted. It was something you were doing as well as other staff.
Thank you for that. I'll also tell you as well, anytime we have flashing lights at a building, I'll make sure I notify you.
Yeah.
And usually 9 times out of 10, it's probably gonna be a medical situation, if a student has a seizure or a diabetic thing or something, that happens, because we're gonna err on the side of safety. But I also know how the world works, and there's flashing lights, and there was a crisis, and the building burned down, and UFOs came and things, things just kind of get going. And we found that, and I find that in the war of information, sometimes that information, the correct, accurate information fixes that. So anxiety is fixed by clarity. I want to make sure we arm you with the clarity for the people you interact with.
We learned in an incident, not, last school season, that there are things that are going to happen that we absolutely will not be the first to know outside of the buildings and outside of the district. Students with cell phones very, very quickly distribute information that we will always play catch up to.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the world we live in today, but being provided with accurate and important information is much more important than speed, in my opinion.
Well, and that also gets us, and there's been times we've had to pause, to make sure we get the information out. Or
Yeah.
sometimes information may be just,
Yeah.
may just be aware of this, because also as we get into some human resources situations, if something were to happen that maybe was in the paper, you may be the body of people that knows the least amount, because this would be the body that may hear that in judgment at some point as a termination hearing or as a disciplinary hearing. But that's a piece too, where our policy allows the board president and superintendent to work in conjunction on that, but also knowing there may be things that, just be aware of the situation happening, and we can't say much more, because you have to
Yep.
become an impartial,
Yep, absolutely.
body, but also not that can be frustrating. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so many rumors floating around, and I can't really handle that, but just make sure we're clear on that piece. When board members have questions about agenda items or would like more background information, how is this best handled, and so what's your preferences on that?
With Dan, what we had implemented was if you have a question or an item, you would just email he and Terry over the weekend, or as soon as you had a question, and then they would work to find an answer. I think that worked well in the past.
And then they got the answer out to everyone before the meeting.
Just as you discussed.
Yep.
So one that I had from Harry, and both are right, and both have merits and both have downfalls. Sometimes it's something significant, and I think you've seen this with me. I'll usually foreshadow it in the update. You know, you'll see this is coming up. You're going to see a recommendation for the superintendent, which again is all open. You know, it's public record. You don't think anybody want to request, so it kind of gives you the chance to ask more questions or do different things. Here, you also had another recommendation. Some is that maybe we have a discussion item on a board meeting and then the action later on to give you guys more time.
Yeah.
Is there a preference on how we operate in that way?
It really depends on the situation
Okay.
and the topic, absolutely. There are things where we are giving them on a Friday and a significant amount of information to process before Monday, and if we're out of town or whatever it may be, it's not always possible. General run-of-the-mill stuff, bills, things that we do deal with every month are no-brainers. It's just, easy to process, but when we have substantial things, sale of the North Grand building, for instance, we give a big document on a Friday and have to process it by Monday and make a decision. That's something that, it's a big-time decision and a big-time thing. So those are different scenarios and animals all themselves, so.
So I think that's where the board president and I will continue to work. If we see something on the agenda that, hey, maybe this month it'd be better, because generally we're planned ahead that we have time to move, especially 2 board meetings a month, but say, hey, let's make this a discussion item. And I would always hope, again, if we had a big one coming up, I'm going to foreshadow that in the update to say some of this thing's coming up, and so that you're aware of it, so.
And not that we've had it happen, but I think every board member always reserves the right to, in an action item to make a motion to table it to the next meeting if they're not comfortable. And I know that even when we have had that in the past, not very often, once or twice maybe, that we've all been in, it's never been a controversial thing. We understand. I'm not going to push someone to make a decision that they're not ready for in that amount of time,
And
so.
sometimes that judgment can't be made until you're at the board table, because sometimes
Yep.
you don't realize all the information until we sit here together and you start hearing it all. And it all starts to click, and then you realize you need more time. And so Jason's right, we would never look at that as something we frown upon. We'd actually welcome that if we feel comfortable to just table the item at that point.
The one thing that I've chatted with Superintendent Fisher about already is when we have presentations by faculty or staff, I think you're probably getting better at planning those out for future months and letting the staff know that maybe this topic will be presented in January. It would be nice if their PowerPoints were included in our packets when we get it in email on Friday, so that we have an opportunity to review their PowerPoints and their information, so that after we've listened to a 10, 15, 20-minute presentation, we have reasonable and logical questions or comments to say, versus just hearing it and seeing it for the first time in public and then expected to make a comment other than, that was really nice, thank you. So, and I think we're working towards that, because we've had that discussion.
I took that feedback. It's great feedback, and actually that's an expectation that we'll have some sort of presentation, whether it's a PowerPoint, a Prezi, or just even an outline that you guys can purview before that we actually have the presentation. So something you're welcome to stop by my office at some time. There is a whiteboard. It is the board, Terry and I call it, where we have the entire, all the board agendas planned out for the entire year. For not everything, but for there's some things that just have to happen certain times. Like dropout prevention will have to be approved in December. So we have that, and we're able to then look at the end of the year. Where do we want to be in terms of our goals at the end of the year, and making sure we're putting the appropriate action items, spaced out the appropriate times to do that. In addition, we've also put all the board presentations for the year, and we made sure they've aligned with our core values. So each month there's a different core value that's a focus. We've also tried to balance that in doing the board education part, because we know these things sometimes take time. We also want to recognize we have 3 board members with young children, so we want to make sure we're not keeping people for too long, but balancing that. So for example, next month we already have, it'll be Rob Pittman, and the rock wall will be coming next month, or not next month, the end of this month. And we've been planning that for a while. We actually moved that back so we can have more pictures and different things. It's around our core value of committed leadership. Can you talk about more of a committed leader than Rob Pittman and doing all the work he did to write grants to get that rock wall built? So he'll do that, have that presentation. But we actually have all of the fall semester presentations already planned out. Actually getting a spreadsheet that you guys can peruse that. And we're also starting to plan out the second semester ones as well. So we're having that. So we can be a little more proactive. It's not, the week before we're trying to find somebody. We're ready to touch on, there's a sequence to it. So, but I appreciate that feedback.
To this one, I also could we touch on possibly, discuss how, since I'm new to the president's role, how it is that we would communicate, and how we have communicated in the past with when a board member wants something on the agenda, when they have a question, or even when the superintendent may, in the past what we've done is if superintendent had something he wanted communicated with the whole board, sometimes we pass that information along to the president, and the president would then take the responsibility of getting all that information out to each one of the board members. Therefore, bring up some of your time. You know, granted, I take it that one of the real important things you want to handle yourself, but if it's something like convention things we're doing tonight or something like that, figuring out, you know, who wants to take classes and things like that, that could be part of the board president's responsibility. Along with, if there's something you want to see on the agenda, you pass that information along to me, and then I can take that to Mike, and we can have that discussion.
Comments, questions about that?
In the past, if we've always had a request for a specific thing to be on the agenda, that was run through the board president, and then the board president worked with the administration to determine if that was appropriate or not. Some things, you know, are sensitive, some things are timed for different times of the year, some things can be handled outside of the board table, different things like that, but, you know, I can see it going, you know, a couple different directions there, whether you go right to the superintendent and Terry or through the board president. It's important to recognize that all of our voices are heard, and that no one feels as though, you know, they wanted, because we have had that in the past where there was times where there wasn't a consensus as though something even should be on the agenda, and that does make someone feel as though they're not being heard as an individual board member. So like I said, just kind of rambling about the past and how it's operated, which I think we've done pretty well with.
When I was president for the 3 years, everything from board either went through me or Dr. Cox, and then we'd discuss it and figure out a plan of action of how to answer it, whether it was on an agenda item or gathering information and putting it on some form of communication later. So, you know, typically it would be, everything would go through the board president.
So Jason, in the past, if you ever received a request when you were president, or Scott, and you had, you wanted some additional information about the item, would you typically reach out to the individual and talk that through?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And then based on that conversation, we'll decide how and where.
Yeah, because at times there's things where you're like, oh, I want that on the agenda, and then you talk through it, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's not, that answers the question, or that makes sense, or this or that. Or, I mean, there are a lot of things that, you know, individual issues that may come up that individual board members do have an interest in or thoughts on, that, you know, it's like, oh, that's a great idea that we haven't thought about, and we should get out there to the public and the community, so.
And sometimes we're tasked with collecting information,
Yeah.
too, on what it is, you know, looking to other districts, looking to ISAB for their recommendations, and then come back with that.
And on occasion, the district has to contact council on some things, you know, just to make sure that we're doing it correctly. So it does take time, and it's not oh, I want this, so it'll be on in 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes 4, sometimes it takes 6 weeks. And on rare occasion, it doesn't ever make an agenda item because it's not something that's actionable or that can be discussed in public even, such as personnel issues, you know, are confidential.
Okay. So going into F, how do we respond to concerns, complaints shared with us directly by community or staff? I know we talked a lot about that the other night, even had a role play. Do we have policy, procedures, or process to guide a response? What guidance does our policy, procedures, process give us? Do we periodically review our key policies? Being the person I am, I read board policy at night. That's how I get to sleep. I'm through 500 and going to start with 600 soon. So I know there's policy on this, but I'll let you guys share it. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
me being a new board member last year, I received lots of people who would come up to me and have opinions. So what I would do is typically what I would ask them, have you spoken with the person directly responsible for this area? And then if they typically they would say no, I would say, well, I would encourage you to go talk to that person. And then I would share that information and that interaction with the superintendent so that they would be aware of, this individual had this item that they wanted to discuss, and I referred them to speak with, the first person. But they may come to you just so you're aware. And in some instances, we had people who had grand ideas for how we should do district-wide projects, and I always referred them to speak with the superintendent on those items. And I said, that person, Dr. Cox was the person who would help if that was a good idea, or vet that out and work with the right people to make that a success. At the board table, I didn't feel like I was the right person to champion something like that through. That would be something that would have to be done at the superintendent, at the instructional level, wherever. So
I'll agree with that, other than I hear a lot of things about the school and employees and things going on, and I'll do the same thing as ask if they have spoken to the coach, the teacher, the aide, the principal, food service, whoever, whatever. What I've always done in my years on the board is I pick the most important things that I hear in public to share with administration or the board president at the time, because just hear so many things. Some of it's good, some of it isn't. I pick and choose what might be a priority before I share that information on.
So Scott, having this experience, how would you determine what you felt was important versus what was not important?
If I hear it once and it seems insignificant to me, that maybe it was a personal issue that somebody had, no, I don't share it. If I hear things 2 or 3 times in a day, if it's the same issue that comes up, whether I hear them whether they contact me in person, text, the office, Facebook, whatever, then it's rising to the top that by the time I contact the president or administration, they probably are aware of it as well. I don't share everything that I hear. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. Sometimes I hear things about food service, that we don't have enough food. I've heard that multiple times, and I'd say, are they eating their fruits and vegetables because it's unlimited? That's not something I'm going to take to administration every time I hear someone talk about food service, because I know that there are options out there for kids, and if they're not taking advantage of those new options that we have, what am I going to do about it, or what is the district going to do about it? It's all a, I can't think of the term I want to use. It's all up, you just pick and choose sometimes based upon what you think the importance or severity even is of what they're talking about. If it's that severe, they need to call the superintendent themselves,
Anyone else?
All right, what types of well, I think we've already hit
Yeah.
this, so why don't we do the last one? What else would enhance communication? Anything you feel that would improve communication even more for the board, for the superintendent?
Do we do an annual opportunity for staff to give us feedback on their thoughts on where not only the board is, but where the district is, where the superintendent is? Have we done that in the past? I know we did a 360-degree view last year of the superintendent, but I'm talking about something that would ask the staff where they think we are, how they think we're doing.
We are actually working on that right now. There will be a draft rolled out tomorrow. So tomorrow, one of our trainings that we're having for professional learning is our team leader training, and the team leaders are being tasked with organizational health. And they will be tasked with finding a formative assessment survey we can issue out to our buildings regularly, and what those questions could be could vary, but around culture and climate, do you feel valued? Would you recommend the school to your best friend? Those are types of things. Those are high leverage questions. Our stance is that the monthly survey we'll start administering will be anonymous and for the building leadership, and not just the administrators, but the team leaders. But then there will be a summit of each building that will issue out. That will be public to the board. And so, I always say that, if you want the formative to be public, that's up to you. If you want the superintendency, that's great. But at the end of the day, it's all about outcomes at the end of the year. So yes, we're going to do that, because I know the question was, would we do the survey regularly? And I think one of my platforms was not only annually, we're going to do it monthly, because we need to know where we are. I keep really pushing on our building leadership, our field administrators. You have to be attuned. You have to know what's going on and not stick your head in the sand, and sometimes face the brutal reality. Maybe it's not always good, but that's okay. We can't fix it once we know.
Very good, very good. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 13, better boardsmanship goal. In the past 4 previous years, the Charles City Community School District Board of Education earned the Better Boardsmanship Team Award for Achievement, sponsored by the Iowa Association of School Boards. We are going to look to formalize this board goal again for 2018-19. This is part of the board's commitment to continued learning and growth. Is there any discussion?
So we did this last year as a board, and the intention was to achieve a Better Boardmanship Team Award. Is that correct?
Yes, we have done that the last 4 years. We have achieved that, and this will be
The 5th.
the 5th year. And this year, though, we'll have 5 board members. In the past, we've had 4 board members. Because it only requires 4 to get the team award, but we'll have the entire team.
My only comment is that it's great, to be recognized and to achieve, really strive to achieve an award like this. What I've seen in the past is that we really wanted to make it a point to get the continuing education that we need to do a better job at the board table. The last couple of years, it's been more of a struggle because we have so much repetition in what we've done. And we've been through so many of that at the board table, all of the at the board tables. So many of the regional workshops are the same thing. So many of the meetings are the same thing. So it's more and more difficult. I'm excited to hear that they are willing to look to come up with some new topics and new ideas to keep them fresh, because to simply achieve an award for the award is not particularly valuable for the time spent, in my opinion. But if there is going to be some new material in that, then yeah, I fully agree and think it's great. So.
Well, and we can't cut short the fact that we really do have 3 new board members, and they haven't been through, or 4, bring our student board member along, that the things we have been able to understand and achieve the goals that we've achieved, a lot of them because of the education we were given, because of our understanding of how things work and how the avenues we should go down in order to achieve those goals. It has made us successful. So we do I feel it's important for us to continue the education part of the board, and look forward to even us developing some of those. That could be a great challenge for us, Jason, is coming up with new.
I would add that even with some repetition of material isn't necessarily a bad thing. I reference, in my job, I have to have 2 hours of ethics every year, and the ethics can only be based upon 15 pages of Internal Revenue Service code. So to have a 2-hour presentation based upon the same 15 pages that haven't changed in 10 years does get repetitious. You sit through and listen to it. You hope to garner 1 or 2 new things or refresh your memory on a few things that maybe you've forgotten since you've gone through one of those classes. The other thing would be at the board table here, and we have the media here and we're on television, to refresh the public's memory or somebody new watching us on TV as to procedure, policy, law, how do you do things, how don't you do things, isn't a bad idea. Yes, I agree with you, Jason, sometimes it gets boring. I try to find the positives in those things that I just mentioned, so
This is an action item.
I move to approve the board goal of achieving the Better Boardsmanship Team Award of Achievement for 2018-19.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the board goal of achieving the Better Boardsmanship Team Award of Achievement in 2018-19. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0. Agenda item 14, athletic training contract.
Motion to approve the contract with Synergy Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine for $5,000 for the period of November 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2019 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the contract with Synergy Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine for $5,000 for the period of November 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2019 as presented. Any additional discussion?
I just have one question. Is there any language in the contract related to how students are treated for more severe injuries? Do they continue to get treatment from this provider, or are they allowed to go to see other physicians or doctors?
You know, that assumption would be that, yeah, obviously they can defer treatment to their, primary caregiver. Obviously 911 would be called in the
Sure.
event of a major emergency. I can't speak that there's any specific language about that. I'll defer to Terry. Terry, we both reviewed the contract. I don't recall any specific language around that in the contract.
No.
The contract is one page, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I read too.
It's a pretty base contract that most providers use, that is my understanding. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 15, Human Resource Conference. Information's in your packet. Superintendent Fisher is going to attend a Human Resource Conference in Chicago. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the hotel and registration expenses for Superintendent Michael Fisher to attend the Human Resources Conference on November 6th through 8th in Chicago.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the hotel and registration expenses for Superintendent Michael Fisher to attend the Human Resource Conference on November 6th through 8th in Chicago. Any other questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 16, annual report. Terry.
The only thing I thought I would bring up, because you're, welcome to read it all, and a lot of good information from the administrators. And in the general fund line item budget, this year, the state, federal government is mandating what they're calling school level accounting. So they're pushing for more expenses being coded to school level. So in the budget, you're going to see some places where it's all zero because it went from district-wide to a building. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same, it's just divided out. So.
This is like a time capsule of the year, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was reading through this over the weekend, and that it's like, wow, that just happened. Yes, it did, but a lot goes on in our school district, and the reports were excellent to read, and the financial report numbers were.
A question would be, do you want to continue to receive this hard copy? It'll be on our website, and we make minimal copies,
How many hard copies do you make in a year?
We
Or did you
are
make for-
making 30 this year. but 8 of them are right here.
Do you get a
And-
lot of requests for, Terry, for the hard copy?
No.
It's probably a lot of work to bind it and put it together and color code it and.
Yeah, and the paper, if you don't want it, we just wouldn't, make the hard copy. I mean, we'd still produce it,
Right.
I think you should have some.
and the board wants a hard copy.
I will have to say,
I
I
do.
have every single one of the years that I've been on the board.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I know
it's
where
useful
mine
for me
are.
Because I know more where this is than I can find it online.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
be honest, and having the ability to go to some of this stuff and lay out 6 years on the same page and look at 6 years,
Yeah,
that is what I enjoy as a board member.
okay.
We are also looking and working with Justin in the communications office of creating like an at-a-glance document that might even just be like a trifold, fits in an envelope, and, hit the highlights, of different things that we could also send out to all of our stakeholders, in a bulk mailing, so.
Yep.
Well, this is an action item.
Motion to accept the 2018-19 annual report and approve the line item budget contained within the report.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the 2018-19 annual report and approve the line item budget contained within the report. Is there any other discussion?
I just want to point out to the public that this report is online at the school website, and it has lots of valuable information. So anybody has a question about the district finances and the budget, they should go look at that online.
I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Agenda item carries 5-0. Agenda item 17, financial report for September 2018. Mr. Bryan.
This is the first year of our 2018-19 revenue expense analysis, so it's pretty early, you'll keep receiving it monthly to track expenses compared to our budget. We did have our audit, was completed a week or so ago, and I thought it went very well. There was one comment on certified enrollment change, and where they reduced prior year count by 1. Also, the food service cash balance. So in October, part of the bills include Taher's 2018-19 advance plus a payment for August, September. So you're going to see a decrease in food service balance, but it should be more in line with where we were last year. Right now, food service is at 240,000, but it will go down to the normal 90,000 probably by next month.
Any comments, discussion?
Motion to accept the September 2018 financial reports as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the September 2018 financial report as presented. Any other additional questions, discussion? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 18, consideration of consent agenda.
I will be abstaining from vote on this agenda item as my spouse is listed under H.
I move to approve the consent agenda items as listed.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items as listed below. Is there any discussion or questions? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 4 with 1 abstain. Correspondence, miscellaneous. Anybody have anything? Any important upcoming dates? October 8th and 9th, no school professional development days. October 22nd is our next board meeting. That's the 7th, and we're back here in 7th grade learning studio. And with that, we'll adjourn.